Different issue. Traffic is a headache around the state. Even if voters approve more money for roads in November, transportation officials say they'll need another $2 to $3 billion just to maintain the current level of congestion. How do you raise that money? And would you take new toll roads or higher tolls off the table in coming up with the money that's needed?
Peggy, I have long been a leader in the area of transportation in this community and in the Texas Senate. I served for 8 years on the Regional Transportation Council and 6 years on the Senate Transportation Committee. And I was proud to be a co-author of what our voters will vote on in November, Proposition 1, something that my opponent let go by for about a year, I believe, before he weighed in on supporting it. I'm encouraging voters to support use of their rainy day monies for purposes of transportation. I also have a plan. Mr. Abbott may have a 30-second commercial, but I have a plan to gradually end the diversions that are coming from the gasoline tax, and I submitted that plan in the form of a bill last session. That plan would allow us to capture an additional $4 to $5 billion with a gradual step down and a plan to fill the hole where those diversions would end.
Did you say tolls are off the table, or are they part of the mix potentially?
You want to wait for rebuttal on that? Or okay, General Abbott.
I think I have a good commercial. My commercial shows that me in a wheelchair, I can go faster than some of the people in cars on the roads here in Dallas or other large cities across the state. Peggy, to answer your question, I have a plan that will add more than $4 billion to building roads in the state without raising a single penny in taxes, fees, or tolls. Where this money comes from is from three places. One, we stop the diversions away from funding that was intended for building roads. Money that is dedicated to roads should be spent on building roads. Two, we take part of the oil and gas severance tax and dedicate that to building roads. Three, we take part of the sales taxes that you're already paying when you buy a car or truck and use it to build roads that those cars and trucks are driving on.
Could each of you address whether you think new toll roads or higher tolls should be part of the mix when you're looking at transportation needs in Texas?
I believe that it's been a poor solution for Texans to have to pay twice. They're paying at the gasoline pump, and then they have to pay again to drive on toll roads. And they're doing that because we haven't had leadership in the Texas legislature that's provided other alternatives for building them. I'm glad to hear that Mr. Abbott approves and agrees with my plans. The rainy day fund money that comes from oil and gas severance taxes is Proposition 1 that I co-authored and that voters will be voting on in November. The end to diversions is a bill that I filed in the last legislative session, but my plan includes a way to replace the hole that's left by ending those diversions, because right now much of that money is going to education and health and human services. I do believe that we need to go back to a pay-as-you-go system as a state and get out of the heavy debt load that our state is carrying for transportation costs.
Attorney General Abbott, would you take tolls off the table?
Short and simple, my plan does not involve any toll roads, period.
And you wouldn't add that to your plan?
I am not interested in adding toll roads in my plan.
Okay, thank you. I have the next question. It will go first to Attorney General Abbott. In the past year, Texas home insurance companies have imposed some very big rate increases, as much as 30% by one company, while still collecting fairly sizable profits. We have a system in this state, as you know, that allows companies to increase their insurance rates before they're actually reviewed. Do you think rates in this state are too high for homeowners? And if so, what changes would you make?
There's probably not a homeowner at home who doesn't think that the rates are too high. And Shelley, I do think that we need to find ways to reduce homeowner insurance rates. It seems like they're going through the roof, no pun intended, but the reality is we have to have a marketplace that will attract the insurance companies here to provide that homeowner insurance. And so,
do you think rates are adequate? Are they right where they need to be, or?
Candidly, I haven't looked at the math of it. I think it's called actuarial information, and I haven't looked at the actuarial information. So Mathematically, I can't tell you. What I can tell you as a homeowner myself, as a person who talks to homeowners every day, we all want to find ways that we can drive down the cost of our homeowner insurance. And I will be someone who will be a champion for homeowners to find those types of solutions.
And I want to say before we go to you, Senator, we won't be having rebuttals on the last few questions because we're running really tight on time. But Senator, the same thing. Are the rates too high? And if so, what would you do about it?
The rates are ridiculously high. Homeowners are being gouged in our state. And they're being gouged in our state because we have an insurance commissioner who is failing to do her job and responsibly review these rate increases and decline them. As a state senator, I have argued that we should have prior approval of rate increases in our state before they are allowed. And one of the first things I will do as governor is replace the insurance commissioner and put someone there who has as her number one responsibility the hardworking people of this state. I don't cotton to people who sell out our hardworking Texans for the interests of big insurance companies. Mr. Abbott, on the other hand, has taken enormous contributions from them and most recently advocated a settlement on behalf of Farmers Insurance that the judge accused him of laying down to the insurance company and refused to accept the settlement because he was selling out the claimants in our state.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you. We're now going to go to Norma Garcia, and she has another social media question. Again, there won't be a rebuttal on this one.
There is still time to join the conversation. We're getting lots of questions via Twitter, so tweet us right now at KERA News, #Texas Debates. And our next question is the following. If a 10-year-old girl asked you whether her two dads should be allowed to get married, what would you tell her? Senator Davis, you are for gay marriage. Would you, as governor, repeal the constitutional provision or push to repeal the constitutional provision that makes gay marriage illegal in Texas? Yes or no? And how high is this topic in your list of priorities?
I favor marriage equality. And I want to make sure that people who love each other, who are willing to be in a committed relationship with each other and who desire to marry in our state have the opportunity to do so. This is a constitutional provision in our law right now, but it's been challenged. It's been challenged by Mr. Abbott. And we await the court's decision on whether this actually is in keeping with the U.S. Constitutional and the Equal Protection Clause of that Constitution. If this is not remedied in the courts, as governor, I will be happy and will welcome a bill that would allow us to put once again before the voters of this state a decision on whether to repeal what is currently our constitutional ban against marriage equality in this state.
Attorney General, you are leading the fight against gay marriage. What would you say to that child?
Mm-hmm. John, I want you to know that there are good and decent people on both sides of this issue. I believe in traditional marriage. That's what 75% of Texans agreed with less than a decade ago when they passed a constitutional amendment in the state of Texas saying that marriage in Texas is a union between one man and one woman. Now, for me personally, this is more than a constitutional amendment. I've been married to my wife Cecilia for more than 33 years now.
Is that what you would tell to the 10-year-old?
That's what I just told John.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. We now have a question from Brian, and this question goes first to Attorney General Abbott.
I'd like to ask each of you to clarify your position on an issue that's been front and center since the start of this campaign, and that is abortion. Attorney General Abbott, you have said that abortion is only acceptable to save a woman's life. You have also indicated that you oppose abortion even in cases of rape and incest. Please speak directly to every woman in Texas who has been a victim of rape or incest and explain your position.
Brian, it's incredibly important whenever we talk to a woman who's a victim of rape or incest that we start with the compassion and support they deserve. That's what I have done as Attorney General by providing a record amount of financial support to victims and victims organizations supporting women who've been victims of rape and incest. That's what I've done as Attorney General by arresting more sexual predators than all attorneys general in the history of the state of Texas. But you bring up the issue, and listen, you know that I'm pro-life, and I'm Catholic, and I want to promote a culture of life that supports both the health and safety of both the mother and child, both before and after birth. In Texas, let's be clear about the law, and that is a woman has 5 months to make a very difficult decision.
Thank you very much. Senator Davis?
Senator Davis, you catapulted into the spotlight on this issue with your filibuster against abortion restrictions. But you recently told the editorial board of the Dallas Morning News that you might not have filibustered if the legislation only banned abortions after 20 weeks with allowances for rape and incest. What kind of abortion restrictions are you willing to accept?
I have always believed, Brian, that it is for a woman, and a woman guided by her faith and her family and her doctor to make these very difficult decisions for themselves. I do not believe that the government should intrude in that most personal and private of decision makings. Greg Abbott, on the other hand, believes that it is his right to intrude, even when a woman has been the brutal victim of a brutal rape, or has been the victim of incest. This should come as no surprise to us, given that Mr. Abbott's attitudes toward women have revealed themselves in other ways. He pays women in his office less than he pays male assistant attorney generals. He campaigned with a known sexual predator who has bragged about having sex with underage girls.
What about your positions,
Thank you.
though?
We have time for one more question. I do apologize. We are running very close on time. And for this question from Gromer, which goes first to Senator Davis, we'll only have 45 seconds for each answer, but we'll see what we can do with that.
Senator Davis, as you know, Texas has a law that allows undocumented immigrant students to pay in-state tuition. Why allow undocumented students such a benefit? And does the law encourage the flow of undocumented immigrants into Texas?
It's good for our economy to make sure that every person who lives here has an opportunity to be a vibrant part of the Texas economy. During this campaign, I've met so many extraordinary young people who are dreamers, who are here working hard to become something. A young woman named Danny, who I met at the Texas State Technical College, who is working on becoming a teacher. She graduated in the top 10% of her high school class. My opponent has called the DREAM Act flawed. I support the DREAM Act. And if there is any attempt to repeal it, and I am sitting at the governor's desk, I will veto that attempt. It makes sense for our students. It makes sense for our economy to make sure that every student in Texas can be a successful part of our future.
Thank you, Senator. Attorney General Abbott.
You did say the law was a noble effort but flawed. Would you veto a bill from the legislature that repeals this law?
Well, frankly, as Senator Davis was saying, I think that the goals of the law are noble. But to make clear, I think that the law as it's structured is flawed, because the way that it's supposed to work is that a student is supposed to be showing that they're making progress toward establishing legal status. And that simply is not being done. But Gromer, here's the real deal. And that is, all these laws, like the in-state tuition law, those are only symptoms of a larger problem. The larger problem, Gromer, is we have a broken immigration system.
Okay.
We're never going to solve these
veto?
problems until we fix our immigration system.
Veto? Yes or no?
Say it again?
Veto a bill from the legislature that repeals the law. Yes or no?
Would I veto it? No.
Okay. Thank you very much. Sorry, I wish we had more time for that, but we'd now like to give each of you an opportunity to make a closing statement, and based on a coin toss, Senator Davis, yours will be first.
Thank you. The question that people will have to ask themselves in this election is, who will fight for me? I have a history of fighting for the people that I represent, standing against massive cuts to public education, standing up to powerful insurance companies and payday lenders on behalf of the people I represent. I've stood for making sure that women are paid equally for doing equal work, and that hardworking Texans in our state can earn a fair day's wage for an honest day's pay.